Now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. Just Energy Radio is brought to you by SoulHealer.com and the Institute of Applied Energetics, where you too can learn to become a medical intuitive counselor, or certified energy medicine practitioner, all from the comfort of your own home. And the training program is undergoing some major rewrite and updating. And so do check out the webpage, especially in the next couple of weeks, because we got lots of exciting stuff going on. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. Anyway, so what got you interested in Bigfoot and other cryptoid-type creatures in the first place?
Well, Rita, it started when I was a kid. I was interested in weird stuff, ghosts and UFOs and such, and had, a scrapbook back in the day where I would cut out articles or, whatever, and paste it in my scrapbook when I was a kid. And in the summer of 1969, there was a case that happened here in the DFW area of the Lake Worth monster. And my grandparents lived in Fort Worth, and I lived in the Dallas area, but they knew that I was interested in all kinds of weird stuff, so they saved the newspaper for me. It was the front page story on the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, both July 10th and July 11th of 1969, and both of those articles were written by Jim Mars when he was the reporter. No. He was the initial reporter about the Lake Worth monster back in 69 for the Star-Telegram. So they saved those for me, so that really fascinated me. Then a year later at school, I traded a kid. I don't even know what I traded, but I won in the trade because I got a copy of Strange Creatures from Time and Space by John Keel. And so I absorbed that book as well. Come to find out, John Keel and I shared birthdays. We're both born on March 25th. Believe he was 20 years older than me, and has since passed away a couple years back. But and then a couple years late after that, I saw the Legend of Boggy Creek, which was filmed not far from the Dallas area, within 3 hours, which just fascinated me as a kid through my teenage years. And that's what got me started. Unlike a lot of people, my interest kind of waned, though, as I, got married and had a job and had real life issues to deal with until 1994. I was driving, I'd gone with a group of friends, a total of 12 people in 5 cars in a caravan to New Orleans for Memorial Day, 1994. And we all set out. Of course, that's before Google Maps, that's before GPS, that's before any of that stuff. So back in the day, you had a road atlas or a road map, and you just mapped your route, depending on what looked like, the shortest distance, generally speaking, because we were ready to get to New Orleans, And so we set out about 5 o'clock in the morning from the Dallas area and, got there, about 1 o'clock or so. But, when we were driving through Louisiana, in that instance, it was in the morning in daylight, so we didn't really pay attention to anything. Well, we got there Friday, came back. My group in my car, which was a friend of mine that lived in the same building in Deep Ellum that I lived in, as well as my girlfriend, were the last ones to come back on Monday night, actually Memorial Day, May 30th, 1994. And we didn't set out from New Orleans until about 9 o'clock. And so we went the same route we had come because that's the way we knew. Well, we not paying attention on the way, but on the way back, it was a 2-lane unlit highway, I guess, road out in the middle of nowhere. No traffic at night, nothing, just, kind of woods and swamps on both sides. Well, we didn't, realize that coming down during the day, but at night, it made a big difference. So we're driving, we're getting close to about 30 minutes out from Alexandria, Louisiana, heading up from the Baton Rouge area on Highway 71, which is a state highway, which is also the same highway that actually goes through Falk, Arkansas, where the Legend of Boggy Creek was shot, was also on the same highway, but in Arkansas versus Louisiana. So we're driving, it's about 11:30 at night, very dark, unlit, no cars, no traffic, and in my headlights, my girlfriend and I notice a figure off to the right of the road. The edge of the road to the tree line, the woods, is about 30 feet. And this figure is about halfway between the edge of the road and the tree line. And as we get closer and closer and closer in my headlights, we see more and more detail and notice that, it's a large figure, looks to be about 7 foot. It's covered with hair, and the hair looks to be gray in the illumination of my headlights. It's actually walking. Its back is to us. It is moving. It's not a static object. It's something that's on two legs. And, we probably saw it for 7 or 8 seconds in my headlights. But as soon as we passed, we both looked at each other and said simultaneously, "Did you just see what I just saw?" And agreed that we had. And I said, "What do you think you saw?" And she said, "I think I saw a Bigfoot." And I was like, "Well, we got to stop." And she's like, "Hell no." I had a little Isuzu Amigo, little Jeep type thing, and the plastic windows were rolled up because it was nice outside. It's not like the plastic windows would have been any protection had they been down. But she didn't want to stop, so we didn't, and we drove about another 10 minutes to a little country church in a town called Bunkie, Bunkie. We pulled in that parking lot of that church and stopped and talked for about 10 minutes about what we had seen. Description, she saw it better than I did. It was closer to her, plus I was driving and having to pay attention. She was able to focus on the object, but she says that, she was actually able to see in the illumination, muscle movement beneath the hair. It was so close. It was within 15 feet of her. And like I said, we talked about it for a bit. The friend that was with me was actually asleep in the back seat during the whole incident, so she never saw anything or knew what was going on. And we were driving back overnight because she had to be at work the next morning. So we talked for about 10 minutes and got back on the road. And the funny thing about it is that we never really talked about it after that. We didn't talk about it on the drive home. We didn't talk about it when we got home. We didn't talk about it with friends or family or anybody. And I don't really know why. We just didn't. But what happened was in 1997, in the summer of 97, I first got on the internet. And the first thing I looked up was Bigfoot. And I found there was a whole, certainly nowhere near what there is now, but a community of people, mostly message boards and stuff like that. Back in the day, there weren't very many websites. The BFRO's website was out, but and met people and talked to people that had similar experiences. And, for a couple of years, kind of got ingrained in the community, and then met a gentleman that lived not far from here that wanted to start up a Bigfoot research organization. And I was so fascinated and wanted answers to what I had seen. Can I pause? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. I know it's, with you, it's typically hard to get a word in edgewise with you. And here I am just blowing and going. So I wasn't quite sure. So I just wanted to make sure.
Nope,
but
I'm just hanging out, listening to your story.
Okay. Well, so we started talking. I wasn't an outdoorsman by any means. I've never even been hunting, but I was a Boy Scout when I was a teenager. And I was so fascinated by that I had seen and wanted answers. So I co-founded a Bigfoot research organization in 1999, the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, and, set about trying to get answers to what I had seen. We put up a rudimentary website way back in 99. I think it was like an Angel Fire website, if you can remember those, with all kinds of blinking, animated GIFs and all kinds of stupid looking stuff. But still, people came to the website and wanted to get involved with what we were doing and wanted to tell their stories about what they had seen or experienced or had a family member had. And so it started taking off and got very popular. I've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have said that they've seen one or more of these, what I would call an animal. And while I'm I'm a skeptic. When I'm talking to somebody, I'm skeptical of what they're telling me. I want to try and verify if they're a credible person and, their facts match up. But, I've talked to many people, ranging from law enforcement personnel, military, clergymen, all from all walks of life that, I can't imagine that they would have motivation to tell a story that's associated with them, that it could be beneficial to them in any way. We never published their information. We published their story. But, one of the most interesting stories, I talked to a gentleman from Virginia that he was a pastor, and he was with his wife in his Ford pickup. This is back in, I believe, 1976. And they were driving out in the country, and a Bigfoot crossed the road right in front of them. As a matter of fact, he had to slam on his brakes to keep from hitting it. And it passed so closely that its hand actually brushed against the hood of his pickup. I can't tell you why he would tell me this story. He seemed very credible. But he lamented that he sold that pickup because he said, my pickup was touched by a Bigfoot, kind of like the show, maybe touched by an angel, but touched by a Bigfoot. But he lamented to that day that he'd actually sold the pickup because Bigfoot had touched it.
But it wasn't until really that piece of footage that came out in the late 60s, early 70s, the famous footage of the Bigfoot walking across that field, that people really, it was in the consciousness of people, I don't think.
Well, there's stories, Native American legends going back hundreds and hundreds of years, and there's stories, in newspapers, in the 1800s. Of course, these things were called wild men then because, Bigfoot wasn't coined until 1958 when, tracks were found, in Bluff Creek, California, where the film was taken in 67. But, Native Americans have had legends of tribes all across the North America of large hairy giants that lived in the woods, stick men, stick Indians, stone giants. Almost every tribe in America has their own native, name for what we call Bigfoot. And these legends date back hundreds and hundreds of years. Like I said, there's newspaper reports from the 1800s talking about, people encountering wild men in the woods that, were covered with hair. So, Bigfoot, like I said, didn't come into the lexicon until 1958. And Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin shot the film in Bluff Creek, California, October 20th of 1967. And that really catapulted it into, the visual imagery of pop culture, even to this day. There's so many Bigfoot shows. Bigfoot is so popular right now. You got Finding Bigfoot. We just had $10 million Bigfoot Bounty, Monster Quest, Destination Truth. All of these shows. I just got pitched, actually, it was either yesterday or today by two different networks. Somebody that's working for Discovery that's looking for people that, want to hunt Bigfoot or other cryptid creatures in cold climates. I mean, that's pretty particular, but that's what they, approached me with. And then there's another guy from another production company. And I even asked him, they were both from Hollywood. And I even asked him, I said, is this to do with this show? And he said, no, funny you mentioned that, but no, it's not. But they were both,
Hey, you could have me be your sidekick, except not the cold one. I don't do cold.
Yeah, we can, there's ones in warmer climates, we can.
I'm just putting it out there,
Hey,
I could be the comic relief and get the beer.
Hey, I love hanging with the doctor. There's no problem with that. Dr. Rita is a blast. So,
but not in cold.
Well,
cranky in cold.
Cranky and cold, but good in the heat.
Oh yeah, and I don't sweat, so it's all good.
You don't sweat?
No, not really.
Oh, really?
I just perspire.
You perspire. Okay. Well,
and I'm serious, but that's not for an on-air conversation. We'll just have to discuss that later.
We'll discuss your perspiration.
Yeah. Oop. Am I losing you, Craig?
No, okay. I hope not.
Your voice got a little weird on that last couple of sentences.
I'm kind of a weird guy, kind of. So I mean,
I know.
entirely possible.
But there are Bigfoots reports, but they're called different names in different places that come from around the world. When you survey these different reports, does it seem like we're talking about the same creature or maybe different species of the same creature? Or could it be that there are multiple hairy hominids that actually live on the earth?
Well, they are thought to be separate ones, but like you said, every continent except Antarctica has reports of hairy hominids. Even in the most unlikely of places. In Britain, there are reports of hairy hominids. British hairy men, BHMs. There, going back, legends of the Woodwose. Like I said, going back hundreds and hundreds of years of what people would describe as hairy men, wild men of the woods. But you do have them. Even Australia has the Yowie, which is just incredible to think about because of their whole situation with Australia, and they don't have the Yowie. I mean, that it sounds pretty cool just to begin with, and can imagine, just imagine the crocodile hunter saying Yowie. I mean, it's just humorous just to think about.
Well, I just am like touching my arm, going Yowie, Yowie.
Yeah, but they're all over, and the descriptions differ. So it may be different species. It just may be environmental, just like Bergman's law, which states that the farther away from the equator, the larger the same species of animal is going to be. White-tailed deer here in Texas are rather small compared to the ones up north, but yet they're the same thing. But yet they're much more massive in size. So they're it could be environmental. The skunk apes that they call them in the Florida and the Everglades, may have adapted to that terrain, that environment, to be different than one of these creatures that was in the Pacific Northwest and the mountainous forests of the redwood forest of the Pacific Northwest. So, there's a whole lot of questions and not a lot of answers. That's the main thing.
Well, one of the things you kind of touched on it, but I'm going to ask a kind of follow-up question. Our mutual good friend, Lyle Blackburn, who
yes,
I
ma'am.
love to death, who looks way too much like Ken, but that's a totally different story.
We have seen them both in the same place at the same time, so we can rule that out.
Yeah, true.
Our last meeting, we were all there in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, but Lyle wasn't wearing his hat.
Oh. Well,
see, I have a picture with Lyle and Ken both with the hat. And then I put these like snake creatures around. Right? Well, no, I put these snake creatures around them,
right.
So that was the Photoshop part.
But
no, they had to do the hat because that's, the whole thing. But anyway, right. He has his book about the bog monster, the monster of Boggy Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And, is that thought to be a Bigfoot as well, or is that thought to be some other weird?
Oh no, it's thought to be one of the southern Sasquatches. I was in a documentary called Southern Fried Sasquatch, if you can believe that, but it was actually about the Lake Worth monster, the Falk monster, the Honey Island swamp monster north of New Orleans, the swamps there, and then what is called the skunk ape of the Florida Everglades and that area. So they're all thought to be the same type of creature. Like I said, they may have just adapted differently to their terrain and environment because of heat.
I think he might have just been sort of abducted.
Yes,
there you are.
Remember, I believe I do have missing time.
Yeah.
I don't feel any pain, so I don't think that I was probed.
Okay, that was what I was kind of wondering, but I just didn't want to say that out loud.
You were gonna throw that out there that I may have been probed. I knew.
Well, I was going to ask, if there was, some discomfort in certain areas, but I was like, I'm trying to be good today and sort of a little serious.
Well, is your show? What's your rating on your show? Is it like PG or R? Or
well, I try to keep it PG, but sometimes it gets kind of interesting. I mean,
well, I think we can say it. I mean, they even say it on South Park, an anal probe. But no, I don't think.
Well,
that
no, I mean, you could totally say that, but I just didn't want to say that.
Right. You could. I could, but you didn't want to go there.
Yeah. Ew.
Okay. I don't think so. I don't have any discomfort. Oh, going back, one thing I wanted to mention, going back to my story of my sighting in Louisiana, coming up in May will be the 20th anniversary, but in January, I went back out there and filmed an episode of Animal Planet's Finding Bigfoot, where we actually did a recreation of my sighting at the location where it happened, which is going to be really cool. It's probably not going to air until this fall on Animal Planet on their Finding Bigfoot, but it's going to be cool after all these years to see it actually recreated. So I'm really looking forward to that.
So there's that show, and I'm really bad with the names, but it's, a Bigfoot show that has these Southern gentlemen that go out looking for Bigfoot. And do you know which one I'm talking about? I don't want to say.
Is it maybe the Mountain Monsters one that's on?
I mean, they're like in Arkansas or Mississippi or.
Yeah, they have all the big Duck Dynasty beards.
Yeah.
Talking about coincidences, I just got from the publicist, the press release today that the second season of that show premieres in April, I believe. It's called Mountain Monsters on Destination America is the channel. But yeah, it's these wacky guys.
But the show isn't all that bad. All right. It's kind of like a two-part, idea. Their research, not so bad.
Right.
I mean, I was actually kind of impressed that they actually thought about stuff. But I mean, I watched this one show and there was this monster supposedly, and they were waiting for it in the dark, and something made noise, and they just went and shot the hell out of it.
Right.
I'm like, no, you're supposed to capture it. You're not supposed to fill it with shot.
Well, did you see their episode they did about Mothman? They built a big bug zapper to try and capture Mothman. I'm serious. A big giant bug zapper. And it failed. But that was, they've got, it's some wackiness. But it's entertaining. That's what I tell people. I get so many people complaining about Finding Bigfoot and all this stuff. And, what I tell people is, these shows they're not made for the Bigfoot enthusiast or researcher, because if they were, they wouldn't even be on the frickin' air. 5,000 people would watch them. Those networks don't care about 5,000 people watching their show. They're trying to appeal to the general public, and they're doing a good job of that. I mean, Finding Bigfoot averages 1.2 to 1.6 million people a week that watch that show. Now, network-wise, that's not that big a deal, but it's the third most popular show on Animal Planet, which is a pretty mainstream network.
Well, and one of the things about shows like that, shows about UFOs, ancient aliens, all of those is, all right, except for the ones that put out misinformation. Those irritate me. Right. But they give out some information. And, I'll watch Ancient Aliens, and I mean, most of the stuff that they have on there, I already, been there, done that.
Exactly.
Got the T-shirt. However, I have a big however. Every so often, they will start talking about something, and I'll go, well, I've never heard of that, or where'd they find that picture? Or right. There's something that will come up, and I have friends that are like, oh, I just watch that for entertainment. I'm like, I sit there with a piece of paper, because I just never know when they're going to come out with something that I need to go and look at further.
Take a note. Right.
And I'm sure for you being a Bigfoot researcher, there might be some case that gets talked about that you really didn't know anything about, and they provide some basic background research for you to take to the next level of research.
Sure. And what I was expounding on is that, I hear from all these Bigfoot people that are so pissed off about the show. It's like, the thing that kills me is that they say these guys go there and they go out for 3 nights, and then they may encounter some evidence, and then they pack up and go somewhere else. And I'm like, Seriously, people, you realize this is a reality show. It's a television show, and they got a shooting schedule. They got places to go and people to meet. It's not, if the show was nothing but real Bigfoot research, nobody would watch that. It'd be so damn boring. It'd be people sitting around at night with, bionic ears trying to record something they hear, and you hear nothing but crickets, Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be entertaining if it was real research, but these people, just are like, I can't believe that, they may find something and then they pack up and leave. And it's like, it's entertainment. Take it as entertainment, enjoy it as entertainment, and just know that it's serving a purpose. It's getting the Bigfoot stuff out there to a much larger audience. And, kids love it. And, maybe it's grooming the future generation of cryptozoologists by, watching Finding Bigfoot, because, all of us guys are getting old. So we need, new blood to come in.
So what is the most credible piece of information that you have seen, or, either in pictures or, in person? As far as evidence that's been presented publicly, I go back to the Patterson-Gimlin film. It was 1967, and everybody's seen it. But I fully believe that is legitimate footage. I don't think that that's a man in a suit. I don't think it's this or that, other than that it's an unknown, unclassified, undocumented animal that is indigenous to North America. That's my opinion. I myself in 2001, January 27th, 2001, went out on a group outing, not far, within 45 minutes of Dallas, to an area where there had been reported sightings. And we hiked in about 3 miles following a creek, towards Lake Tawakoni. And, on the way back out, we were fanned out, had about 20 people in a grassy meadow. It was about 40 degrees and it was drizzling, so it was kind of a miserable day. But we found a series of 3 footprint tracks that were 16 inches long, had 5 toes on each one, and they were, with the first set were 48 inches apart and the second set were 52 inches apart. And nobody knew we were going out there. We just went out there on a whim. And this is, 2 miles from the road. Where, if a hoaxer is going to hoax something, they want a payoff. They're not going to just go out in the middle of nowhere and hoax something, make some footprints, with no hope of anybody coming across them. They're going to do them on the side of the road or where they know people are going to be and see them, Otherwise, there's no payoff for them. So that's the second best, is actually, tracks that I saw in the ground. Wasn't prepared. That was back in the early days and didn't have any plaster or anything to cast them with, but took photographs. And, I believe they were, legitimate tracks from one of these creatures that was out there. So I have kind of a weird question, but it's something that has crossed my mind.
Well, first of all, it wouldn't be Dr. Rita. It wouldn't be Dr. Rita if there wasn't a weird question.
I'm going to be seeing you soon.
Oh yeah, you're going to be seeing me soon.
You're supposed to be nice to me.
I am always nice to Dr. Rita. Always.
Anyway, okay, how do I? So, humanity. Well, it's a really weird question. Humanity is, there's the belief that we evolved from apes. We're, I'm just not even going to go into that whole piece. But,
right.
But there's a connection of humans and apes.
Right.
So do you think that Bigfoot, big feet, what do you call them if they're plural? Bigfoot, foot eyes? I mean,
people, you can use it like deer, and it could be Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Bigfoot can be plural. Some people say Sasquatches, some people say big feet, which is just ridiculous because, we're not actually talking about their feet. But Bigfoots, people say all kinds of different things.
All right. Well, whatever. Anyway, do you think that they are related, somewhere to apes and humans, Or could it be possible that they are actually related to a different species that is in a hominid type body configuration?
Well, anything that anybody says about this is purely speculation because, we don't have the evidence. We don't have the proof to be able to, legitimately say 100% that this is what it is. So, I mean, people speculate all across the board on what they are, that they're relic hominids, that they're, that they're the Nephilim, they're the Anunnaki, they're, just across the board that, Bigfoots were here and aliens came and crossbred with them and created humans. I mean, there's speculation and theories across the board. I think, my personal opinion is I just think that like I said, it's an undocumented primate that is indigenous to the United States. Apparently, other types of them are indigenous to, all across the world. But, I don't think they're a human ape hybrid. I don't think that they are, an extraterrestrial traveler. I don't think they're shape-shifting interdimensional beings. I just think they're, just something that hasn't been documented. They seem to be very elusive, but, there's a catch-22. Not only are they very elusive and probably fairly rare, but they also seem very curious about humans. I mean, I've gotten stories, talked to people that, have had them come around their house, say a wife doing dishes at night and looks through the kitchen window and sees a big hairy face staring through the window at them. I mean, how creepy would that be? A family sitting around watching TV and somebody just happens to look up and notice, a large hulking figure looking through the window. I've talked to people that they've had these things come into their camps, ransack their packs and stuff while they're at night and they're asleep at night in their tents. So while they seem to try and avoid man, and most sightings seem to be accidents on the part of the animal, a road crossing or a hunter actually, happens to catch sight of one. They do seem curious about humans and do come in to areas where humans are and are seen sometimes.
Well, okay. So I'm sure you're aware of this, that they had recovered hair that was believed to have come from a Bigfoot, and that they were doing the DNA testing actually in Dallas. Do you know what the results of that testing was? Did they come up with any kind of conclusions based on it?
Well, that theory, that whole DNA study headed by Dr. Melba Ketchum, a veterinarian out of here in Texas, had all kinds of crazy theories. What they ended up saying is that it was some type of hybrid species, that was hybridized 15,000 years ago is all, between, a human and some unknown, unknown creature that, that's what Bigfoot is. That's what their DNA study says to them. Dr. Brian Sykes out of Oxford University in Britain did another study with hairs from across the world. The hairs they tested of the Yeti turned out to be some type of previously unknown prehistoric polar bear or something, that the hairs they tested. Now, once again, these are hairs that are found. So, I mean, these aren't hairs that somebody's actually going up to a Bigfoot or a Yeti or whatever and plucking out of them. And so they know where it came from and submitting it for testing. These are hairs that are generally found maybe in areas where one of these creatures has been seen or something like that. So they're just submitting a hair sample. But the study that did the press conference here in Dallas, their theory is that it's some type of hybrid between a human and an unknown primate hominid creature, that and the hybridization occurred, only 15,000 years ago. And that's what they're saying, accounts for the Bigfoot sightings.
I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, how could they not, say it's some unknown creature? I mean, that just doesn't even make sense to me.
Well, they're saying their DNA study, their DNA results come back and shows that. So either they're getting, contaminated DNA samples that have human DNA in it, or their samples are part human DNA. I don't put much credence into it because, like I said, I don't think that they are a primitive human or hominid of any type. I think it's, some kind of primate. Granted, we're considered primates, but I think it's a previously not known. Don't necessarily fall into the line of thinking that people think, it's a Gigantopithecus, which is an ancient ape that, was huge and was found in China and may have crossed over in the land bridge, may have not, but I don't necessarily buy into that either. I mean, like I said, theories are all over the place, but that's all they are, is supposition, theories by people that they think that that's what the case is.
Well, and until we get more evidence, it's just such a complicated thing. I mean, it's right up there. I was kind of putting in the chat room, because they were going a lab in Dallas, and I was putting that is where Brian Forrester sent his samples from the elongated skulls to be tested.
Right.
Until you start getting, multiple pieces of evidence that you can start comparing and ruling things out, at least with elongated skulls, they're dead and they're not going anywhere. So you don't have to worry about, finding it in the woods somewhere.
Right. You've got physical evidence that can be tested. I mean, those are from Venezuela, right? The Paracas skulls, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Peru. Mm-hmm.
And, they're certainly interesting, but, once again, I know there's the whole controversy. Are they, created by head binding, or is this, the natural shape of the skull? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm just interested in the mystery and interested enough to try and, find answers myself.
There's a whole big debate in the chat room going on. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Usually I try to be in the chat room, but, the time escaped me, and then it was time.
And then it was time. Well, I could just read everything that's going on in there.
Yeah, Rita's private messaging me. It's showtime. Hello.
Hello. Come back. Yeah. Come back.
Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to log into the chat room to be able to participate.
Yeah, but then we would not even be talking here because we'd be too busy in the chat room chatting, and
right.
It'd be like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait, send. Okay, I'm back.
Well, there's tons of information with my website, Cryptomundo, which is I looked it up today on, I'm trying to think, rank.com is the website, rank.com. And will you believe this? I was almost surprised, but out of all the websites on the internet ever, well, current anyway, maybe not ever, I think Google is number one, but Cryptomundo was ranked number 4,990.
Wow, that's good.
All the websites on the internet. I mean, at the top 5,000, that's pretty darn incredible, I think.
That is incredible. It is incredible. So you were talking about a bunch of Bigfoot sightings in Texas, but it just blows my mind that there could actually be any, because we often associate Bigfoot with open, expansive areas, of trees or mountains. And it's Texas. We don't really have that.
No, but I mean, we got the piney woods of East Texas. We got the big thicket in Southeast Texas. We have, I forget the figure in Texas alone, but I know in the 4-state region. And do you know off the top of your head, is a square acre or a square mile bigger? I think it's a square acre is bigger. But in the 4-state region of Texas, Oklahoma,
a mile is definitely bigger than an acre.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the 4-state region of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana, we have, which one's bigger? A mile is bigger. I believe it's 65 million square miles, 100 million square acres of forest land in those 4 states.
Who'd have thunk it?
More than the size of the entire state of Oregon. That's how big the forest land is in these 4 states. So that's pretty incredible. And if you drive through East Texas, drive through the Piney Woods, I know you go to Jefferson, you go to those events in Jefferson. Cattle, go out, you've been to Cattle Lake, I'm sure, man. It's creepy as shit out there. It's cool. And there's a lot of sightings out that area around Cattle Lake and that whole area. The Piney Woods all the way down to the Big Thicket down in southeast Texas. A lot of woods, a lot of water, a lot of woods, a lot of animals for other animals to eat. Those are the things you got to have. You got to have woods, water, and wildlife. So
it just seems like it would just be plain too hot.
Well,
all that hair hanging out, just too hot.
How cold has it been here recently?
Well, yeah, but it's been like, I was talking to...
The other day when it was 15 degrees, I damn sure wouldn't mind wearing a Bigfoot coat. Guaranteed.
Well, I mean, I was just talking to somebody that is in Illinois.
Uh-huh.
And they said that it hasn't even broken the freezing temperature since the beginning of the year. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not you.
Yeah. Well, how do cows live in the winter? How do horses live in the winter? How do
I'm talking
coyotes?
About in the summer.
In the
when
summer,
it's 100-something degrees,
the extremes. Those animals still, manage to survive. How do bears live in the summer versus in the winter? It still happens.
So, what other kind of weird crypto creatures do you find interesting other than Bigfoot? What's one of your other favorite ones?
Oh, lake monsters. I love lake monsters. As a matter of fact, I just was pitching a show called, based on the premise of Finding Bigfoot, but finding lake monsters to a production company. I mean, lake monsters fascinate me because, you get so many descriptions. Lake monsters are described as, giant snakes, giant turtles, plesiosaurs, giant beavers, giant this, giant that. And, that's just fascinating that, there's so many lakes and bodies of water across North America that are supposed to be home to some type of monster. I mean, that's, really incredible. I think Mothman is really cool. I went to the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, West Virginia last September. Lyle Blackburn and I, road tripped there and hung out for the weekend and had a blast there. That's a story that's also always fascinated me going back to 1970 when I read John Keel's book, who did write the book Mothman Prophecies, but in his book Strange Creatures from Time and Space, there was a chapter about the Mothman in there that came out in 1970, and Mothman Prophecies didn't come out till 75, but, that's fascinating, But,
but the Mothman thing, to me, kind of sounds like some weird extraterrestrial thing more than a cryptid type.
Sure, and it very well may be. It gets lumped in there, but, I mean... you got all kinds of weird stuff like that. The Flatwoods Monster, the Dover Demon. There's all kinds of that weird, creepy shit that, may be extraterrestrial and may be, aliens. Hell, people think that chupacabras may be aliens, pet dogs that got left out. It's just, there's so much crazy stuff out there. So much stuff that I find fascinating and interesting. And, some people may find it weird. There's a funny story. A girl that I just recently met that I really dig. She has such an issue that that I supposedly believe in Bigfoot. She just finds it, so out there that I could believe in she calls them mystical beasts, and it's just an issue for her that even almost for dating, because I believe in Bigfoot, and and I tell her it's what I do, it's not who I am.
You're the second person that's come on the show and shared that whole thing about, well, I start dating people and then I tell them what I do and what I'm interested in, and it's like you actually get that far that you're dating them and then you finally tell them. It's like, I think it's just important to get it out up front, or maybe not right up front, but kind of.
And this is really the only person I've ever encountered that that tell it to people I meet, and they just think that it's interesting or strange or weird. But with her, it's it's like I just don't know about the whole Bigfoot thing. You believe in Bigfoot. I just can't comprehend that. Yet, when she was a kid, Harry and the Hendersons was her favorite movie, and she had the Harry, doll. She just told me that today. That's who I was talking to, before I was late being on the show, and who called and interrupted earlier was a phone call from her, she just can't believe that, that I believe in Bigfoot. And it's not a matter about belief. Belief is taking things on faith without evidence. I think that the evidence shows that, is valid, that shows that, this creature is there, in my opinion.
Or that there is something going on that deems further research.
Right. There's certainly a phenomenon at the very least. I mean, to think that every sighting, every footprint, that every track that's found is all hoaxed, to me, that's, it's far easier to believe that the animal's out there than to believe that everything that's ever happened is all, manipulated or hoaxed or fake or lies or whatever, to me, it's far easier to believe that the animal's out there.
I mean, I do still find it interesting that there hasn't been any more progress toward, and I hate even saying this, capturing one, but I hate even saying that, or getting pictures or footage, with the shrinking forests and land grabs by, for residential purposes. It seems like their roaming areas would be, and logging and stuff like that, that their areas that they live would be, being encroached upon, and that we would be seeing more evidence of it.
Well, we are, but, not everybody that sees one reports one. I mean, just because somebody saw a Bigfoot doesn't mean that it's going to get reported and the public's going to know about it. I mean, a lot of people don't talk about these types of things. Like I said, I've talked to hundreds of people, and they've told me, some people, I've had grown men break down crying on the phone because they've never been able to tell anybody, not even their wife, because they were afraid of being ridiculed. And, to be able to tell their story and finally, get it out. A very cathartic experience for some people. People are seeing these. People are saying, why doesn't anybody see Bigfoot? Well, people are seeing them. They are. And every once in a while, one of these stories goes viral, and it's all over the internet. Somebody says they saw something, for some reason, something about the story causes it to go viral. But, people are seeing them and seeing them every day in all parts of the country. They may just not be reporting it, just like,
because it just seems like in the UFO world, it seems like people have become more open to come forward. And even in the ghost hunting world, people have definitely become much more or less apprehensive to say that they've seen a ghost, where, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you were a weirdo if you saw a ghost.
Right.
Or a UFO. But I think it's interesting that Bigfoot is still kind of sitting in that kind of no man's land. Right.
Well, Bigfoot, it's a joke, look at messing with Sasquatch, you got the commercials. Yeah, it gets it out there, but, it makes a big joke about it. It's not necessarily taken serious, and scientists that get involved aren't taken serious. That's my opinion. It's still kind of ridiculed. It's kind of a funny story. Oh, my crazy cousin saw a Bigfoot. What about that? Maybe he was drinking. Maybe he was out there with his moonshine still. It's just out there. But the fact of the matter is I believe these animals are out there. And it's just like the old axiom, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, does it still make a sound? Just because nobody's there to see a Bigfoot out in the forest doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Well, maybe Bigfoot heard the tree fall. But anyway, we need to wrap up. So. Okay. Craig, where where should we send people? What would you like to pitch today on the show? I mean, we talked a little about Cryptomundo. Is that the best place for you to send people? I know you have multiple websites. So
yeah, well, Cryptomundo is the best. It's it's got a Facebook page. You can look it up on Facebook. You can look the website. Like I said, the website gets about 1 million unique page views a month. It's really heavily trafficked. Like I said, it's one of the top 5,000 websites on the internet. Most of my other presence right now is on Facebook right now, the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, CryptoQuest, which CryptoQuest just looks into all the other crazy stuff that people see, Wolfman. I got a report recently of a woman that said she saw a pterodactyl. I mean, just crazy, crazy stuff. But, it's stuff that I still look into and decide, whether it's, they're credible or not, and their stories are. That's called CryptoQuest, and it's on Facebook. Texas Bigfoot Research Center is on Facebook. I'm just relaunching the website for that. Yeah, Cryptomundo, CRYPTOMUNDO.
Well, we got to go because the music is rolling.
You do hear the music in your ear now this time, huh?
Well, no, they actually told me. So I need to go.
Okay.
So, Craig, thanks so much for coming on the show, and I know I'll be talking to you soon, and I'll be talking to you soon. But that's
Sounds
Craig
good.
Woolheater. His website is cryptomundo.com. And next week, we're going to have Scott Wolter from America Unearthed back on the show, and he's going to tell us all the secrets about Season 2. And I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio.
For Just Energy Radio. Point your browser to www.justenergyradio.com for more show information and to contact Dr. Rita. Until next time, remember, it's all just energy.